Hi, this is Junior Natalie Powers reporting for CPPtv. Recently, we had the pleasure of interviewing Hawk Day speaker Chris Herren, who shared his personal struggles with addiction. Watch the following interview for more information about his personal struggles, the message he hopes to share, and the lessons he's learned throughout his life. Okay, so I just want to say thanks, Mr. Herren, for coming to our school. I know your message reached a lot of people. It was very meaningful.
No, it was great. I thought all the kids responded unbelievably well. I was really impressed by some of the courageous stories that kids told after I presented, and some of the kids that I was fortunate enough to meet after I walked out of the auditorium today.
Right. It was I was in there when the students stood up to speak, and I was because you don't really see that side of them in school. So now I just have a few questions for you. What inspired you to start sharing your story?
I think other students
Okay.
inspired me. When I first started doing this, it was just let me go into a classroom and talk about my book. I really didn't have a format, a plan to do this. As I continued to speak and present in front of kids, I had to take responsibility of how I presented and what impacted kids. And over the years, I've just kind of developed a presentation that I think is transparent, for high school kids and relevant in their life.
Okay, and how has sharing your story affected you personally?
It's tiring. I mean, there's no doubt. I do this 250 times a year. It can get a little emotional at times. To see those kids in that auditorium today can kind of weigh you down a bit. But again, it also inspires me to continue, and my recovery has to come first, and this is part of my journey, and I've taken the energy and the courage from other students to continue on.
Right. Okay, so my next question is, what are you asked the most when presenting?
Oh, good question.
It's a toughie.
It is a toughie. So I'll say this. Kids often ask me, do I ever feel like using? Is relapse an issue for me? Are you aware that it's very close to you and things can go wrong really quick? And I often say, I've been sober for 9.5 years, and the only time I ever think about using drugs or alcohol is when I'm struggling with being myself.
Right.
When I want to kind of escape myself, shut the noise off, and just kind of walk away. But over the last 9.5 years, I've surrounded myself with people who are aware of that, who are like me, who help me, and want to see the best out of me. So most of the time, the question is, do I ever feel like getting high?
Right. Okay, that's a good answer. I'm sure that'll be helpful to a lot of people who are dealing with the same things. And then my last one might also be a toughie. If you could go back and say one thing to your 17-year-old self, what would it be?
So, 3 years ago, Gail King, Oprah's best friend, asked me to write a note to self. It's a segment on CBS Morning Show. And I thought it was going to be easy. And they told me I had 500 words. And I said I can do that in my sleep. And it was one of the toughest projects I've ever done.
Yeah.
To reflect back on your younger years and talk to yourself in a way is difficult. So I wrote that, and most of it focused on my childhood, to be courageous enough to talk, to work through self-esteem, social issues that are blocking you, and to get through them rather than run away from them. So I think a lot of this stems from trauma, self-esteem, and self-worth. And although I was very successful as an athlete, internally I struggled. You know, so I often tell kids, you know, challenge yourself to be a pro at being you, you know, so.
Alrighty. Thank you so
Cool.
much for doing this interview today and for coming to our school.
Totally. Thank you.